create a poll real quick and just set it up for you guys. So, um, here we go. All right, there we go. I'm gonna move it over here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. There's a good place to put it. All right, cool. We'll put it right there. There we go. It's not too bad because now it's out of my way. Ugh. All right, so first I'm going to start talking about judgment a little bit. But before I start talking about it, I kind of wanted to talk about one thing that I'm starting to notice in my live streams that I'm going to try to change. And that is being that I feel like I talk way too fast in my live streams. So I'm going to try to slow it down a little bit if I can. It's really easy for me to talk fast, but I am just going to try to slow it down the best I can. So we'll see where it goes. So one of the things for me, I know some people can agree with this. Some of you guys will be like, yeah, that's so true. That's me. Some of you guys not as much. But for me personally, I feel like I always feel like I'm being judged by others or watched by others, that other people are just always like thinking about me or thinking something weird of me. And it's something I have to work on, And it is something I've kind of talked about this. I've mentioned this before in one of my other live streams. But it is something that the fear of what others possibly think of you keeps you from doing things that need done. There's things like going to a gym. For instance, I always have the fear that someone's going to look at me as less than everybody else, look at me as, skinny or weak just because I'm just starting in the gym rather than, as someone who's just like them. And so I feel like that's one thing for me that I really have to work on changing is not focusing on what other people are thinking about me and just kind of getting it done, and just kind of be to the point where I don't have to worry about that anymore. For me personally, I am definitely more of a people pleaser. Hello, welcome to the stream. I'm glad you're here. So let's see, we have right now, I can't even see where the votes are at right now. Okay, so we have 3 votes on always have others judge you. Now I think I would agree with that. I don't really like to be in a place where I'm judging others, ultimately. I think it's better to be the one who is being judged than to judge others. So yeah, generally I would agree with all of that. So yeah, no, you guys are right. But I think, yeah, this one thing of feeling like I'm constantly being judged in the gym keeps me from wanting to go. Or at least go when people are there. I'm doing good. How are you today? And it's really important to continue, working your hardest even when you feel like people are judging you. I think a lot of times when you stop thinking about other people, you perform best. I feel like, when I go to work and I just work really hard and work as hard as I can, work to please people or work to please God and also make sure everyone's good. Yeah, it's true. Everyone really judges and it doesn't, well, and ultimately it doesn't really matter. I mean, if it's just paranoia ultimately, if I'm being paranoid at everybody for, oh, they might be thinking this about me. I don't even know that they're thinking that about me. I'm just assuming something that could be true that might not even be true. That most likely isn't true. Most likely when people are in the gym, they're not thinking of me as, oh, this kid's just starting out, or he's weak, he can't, you know. Most likely they're just focusing on their workout routine. So I think that's one thing that kind of creates a different point of view for the whole thing is people aren't generally actually trying to judge you or really looking at it. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's really, really nice of you. But yeah, so ultimately, I think it comes down to the point when do we feel like this is actually creating kind of making it harder for us to do certain tasks? If we feel like it's going to be easier for us to not focus on what other people think. A lot of times, when I first got my permit for my license, well, not for my license, but when I first got my permit and I was driving, when I first started driving, I was driving in a canyon, and it's kind of a really windy road. You have to kind of go slower on some of the turns. Well, you don't have to go slow, but anyways, being that I was a new driver, I did start to go a little bit slower on these turns and everything. And when people were right behind me, tailing me, trying to get past, in my mind, it immediately went to, what are they thinking of me? Are they thinking that I am a slow driver, or I am, I'm not a good driver, or I'm so slow, this one? Instead of focusing on just drive the way I want to drive and stay safe, I was constantly focused on what the other person was thinking. So I think oftentimes judgment does kind of cause us to have a issue doing certain things. And like I mentioned with the gym, it's the exact same thing. I didn't go to the gym for months because I was so concerned about what people were doing. I started doing a calisthenics workout here at home, and I would do like 70 push-ups a day. I started doing 30 and then started moving my way up. And anyways, once I started to gain more confidence from doing the calisthenics program, I was doing push-ups, I was starting to look a little bit bigger, starting to have a little more muscle, and so then I started to feel comfortable going to the gym. Well, I feel like it's really important there's a few things you can do when you feel like you're being judged by a lot of other people, but I don't feel like oftentimes that judgment is actually, it actually happens. People don't want to judge you just because they can. Oftentimes they'll judge you for your personality over your looks, or, how weak you are in the gym. They're not going to judge you by how weak you are necessarily. Most of the time they're going to judge you by your personality. And as odd as it is, I feel like in life, now this is kind of crazy, and it's going to seem that way to some of you guys, but the more crazy you are, like just kind of loud, not obnoxious, I'm just saying loud, funny, kind of very social, the more people actually like you. When you're quiet and stay to yourself, people will most likely stay to themselves too. You'll just kind of not go to you and talk to you at all. Well, yeah, that too. I think people care. So here's the difference. Yeah, I agree with that comment, but I also think that people don't judge you. They always think about you. Well, sometimes they do judge you. I feel like a lot of times they do, but you're never gonna know anyways. It's only the paranoia getting to you, really. That's really ultimately what it is. So yeah, probably true. I mean, oftentimes when you start to think about, is this helping me in any way? To constantly be paranoid about what they're thinking of me, what others are thinking, how others are judging me, then why am I so focused on this? The goal is ultimately be to just stop focusing on it. Stop caring about everyone else. Nobody else matters, really. Go and do something. Go and get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Go and talk to somebody, Don't go and address them, hey, are you thinking, no, don't go ask them if they're thinking weird of you. Just go and, say hi, or maybe if someone's in the gym, say, dude, man, you're looking great. Do something out of your comfort zone. Just kind of kind of release that a little bit. You'll feel a little bit less judged, I guess, when you stop focusing on other people. Just focus on your tasks that you have. You know, I think it's really important because a lot of people don't ultimately understand that. A lot of people will just, I mean, even for me, I know I'm saying this, but even for me, it's still kind of hard to put that in practice. Because in order to stop focusing on what people think of you, in order to stop focusing on the judgment constantly, I feel like, yeah, it's difficult because you really have to get outside your comfort zone. At work, I'll tell you, I'm a totally different person at work only because I'm far more social at work. When I'm at work, I can, sing in the kitchen and be loud and laugh and joke. But when I'm outside alone in like the grocery store or something, I can talk to somebody one on one and it'd be like a, conversation. Hey, how are you today? But it's not like super funny or, I think at work a lot of people laugh and they joke. I walk into the bar and I can immediately make a joke with somebody. But when it's just me, then I don't. It's just not my personality. I thought it was an NF shirt, but it is not an NF shirt. That's what I assumed, but it is not. It was just another brand trying to copy his design. But it's still cool anyways, because apparently a bunch of other people thought so. Alright, so we have, on this vote here, we have 33% of you guys voted to always have to judge others, or 70 of you guys voted to always have others judge you. Some people may be actually really bothered by people that are judging them. I feel like a lot of people do, actually. That's where paranoia comes in. I know a lot of people that get very paranoid at being judged, or they feel like they're being judged. When a lot of times they're not at all being judged, or they're being judged so much that, but they'll never even know, is it really. Hello, welcome to the stream. But yeah, so ultimately that's kind of my whole goal, and I do have a quick update for you guys. I do want to come back to this thought on judgment, but I do want to have a quick update for you guys. I have still been keeping up on my calisthenics transformation, and I have been going to the gym as well, but I have also been doing the calisthenics, the push-ups, and those stuff. So I have been doing 70 push-ups a day, and I think I'm almost to day 150. Almost 150 days. Well, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go back to judgment here now that I've made that announcement real quick. Yeah, you just commented that oftentimes we don't realize how much we judge others. Yeah, we judge others so often that when we feel like we're being judged, that it's really unfair. But the amount of times we judge other people is completely unfair to other people, And it's something, oftentimes, when you judge somebody, I feel like it's better to go and talk to that person one-on-one. Well, okay. Not really. All right. So for me, there's someone at work, right? There's a coworker who doesn't work super well, who's forgetting things, they start to forget this, they start to forget that. I get it. You've been here how many, 3 months? And you're forgetting a lot of things that you shouldn't be forgetting, limes for the tacos, lemons for the fish. It's kind of simple things, right? And when I first started with this person, I was constantly judging them for who they were. Oh, they kind of look weird, or, oh, they keep forgetting this. I wish they would just get fired, Terrible things you judge other people for. Oftentimes, people will judge you by the same standards, but they'll judge you by your personality, by the way you are. But I feel like oftentimes, if you're just the one weird guy, the guy to just be loud and funny, people are not going to judge you as much. Or they're still going to judge you, but not nearly as much if you were just normal, quiet. And if you're quiet, people are always kind of watching you, If you just kind of sit down in a corner and just kind of watch everybody, just kind of observe, everyone's going to be watching you too. They're kind of wondering, what are you doing? Why are you not talking to somebody? Or why are you not mixed in with the crowd, But I feel like the more crazy, outgoing, more social you are, people don't really care. People really don't care about you as a person. If anything, you're going to have more friends. My boss is very funny, very loud. He can just make a joke at just the right time. And I think it's great because the amount of people that come into the restaurant to talk to him and say, hey, thank you so much for the food. How many friends he has in the restaurant because he's so social, so loud and funny. And this guy, I walked in, he came in with an order last night and I made the order. And as I walked out to the customers, he was just standing there laughing and talking. And the customers were having a great time. They were laughing. All of them were. They were like almost crying. Like they were to the point where they were laughing so hard. But it was one of those things that I kind of realized this is why he has so many people. Is because he doesn't care what others think of. It is why he has so many friends, because he doesn't care how other people judge him. He's just going to focus on like on what his task is. And his task is, as the boss, to focus on his job, to cook for everybody, make everybody happy, and make money, ultimately. And when you go from a boss's standpoint, how a boss looks at the job versus how a coworker looks at the job, it's very different. And I'll explain why. Is because I know we've kind of gone off the path of judgment a little bit, but we'll get back to it maybe. But ultimately, the issue is, the boss, they see the whole business as, this is the amount of money I make. I have to make this amount of money. From their standpoint, it's not about when am I getting my paycheck. It's about how much more money is going into my business so I can keep resupplying, bring more food into this. How much money can I make to make my customers more happy, right? And so he's been talking about, he wants to create a statue of himself, and put it right at the front of the door, right beside it. He said, for me, I want to put a lot of money into this because I can see where it'll help the restaurant. It's not for me. If he wanted to, he can go and take all of that money that he earns from the restaurant and go and put it on something, a new truck, a new car. The car he drives is a decent car. It gets around. It's not a fancy car. Hang on, let me read this real quick. Oh, I mean, totally, yeah. The risk for an owner versus the risk for a employee, there's just no there's a huge difference between that. Because if you have one person, the employee is always focused on their paycheck. They're focused on, their shift meals. They're focused on, let me get off work tonight. I'm going to get off work exactly, if my shift is from 4 to 9, I'm going to get off exactly 9 o'clock tonight. I'm done. I'm leaving. Versus the boss, they're always focused on, okay, how can I get all this work done? I've started to know something about my boss, and my boss is one of the kind of guys he's the one guy in the whole thing. Every single piece of food, he's prepared it. Only him. There's not another person to help him out. He's the only person. Because while all of his other employees are focused on the paycheck, they're focused on, just joking, or they're on a break, a 15-minute break. Instead of taking a break, he's over cutting lettuce, cutting tomatoes, cutting onions, getting everything prepared for the next rush. When I just come into work, it was yesterday, and I came into work to start my shift, and I was just starting, I was really happy to be there. Everything was going great. And then he came in, and I was just kind of doing my own thing, just washing dishes. I'm a dishwasher too. I do a little bit of cooking, but mostly a dishwasher. That's what they need. And so I was doing my dishes, and I was kind of, doing it at my own pace. Not slow, not super fast, because when you first get on your shift, you kind of want to start getting there. And we weren't super busy, but he was already like, hey, I'm preparing for my next shift. He was running back and forth to the kitchen, getting everything ready. And that's the difference between a boss and employees. The employee doesn't care about the time. The employee can waste as much time as they want. There's no risk for them, as long as they don't get fired. Their job is just get the work done, and then, make the boss happy, right? But they don't have any risks. They don't have any bills to pay in the end. They don't have to pay for the business, the taxes, and all of this and that and this and that, It's only the money that they care about. And the money for the employee goes all to themselves. There's no split some of it with the boss because he was so So thank you so much. Or maybe some of you guys pay for your shift meals. I'm not positively sure, but some people that's what it is. Um, yeah, no, I totally agree with that. You said don't work for a paycheck. For me, every time I go to work, I honestly forget about my paycheck. I go to work to be, to have fun at work, to enjoy my time, and the best I can do is just be there, laugh, joke, create a positive atmosphere for everyone to enjoy. And then when you really enjoy your job, for me, my job is to wash dishes most of the time. I walk in, that's my job, because there's nobody else to do it, right? I have been washing dishes there for over a year, and I am still super happy about that. I still don't care. Dishes is not something I hate because I love working that job. The people there, I love joking with, I love talking with them, and I show up to get work done and help my boss. My goal is not to get the paycheck at the end of the night. I don't care about the paycheck. Ultimately, the paycheck is the last thing on my agenda, the last thing I should really be looking for. Because the paycheck, whenever they bring out the paycheck, oh, here's your paycheck, I forget about it. I have no idea it's there, right? When I say, oh, here's your paycheck, don't forget. Oh, yeah, my paycheck, don't forget. The paycheck is more like the bonus for me. It's like I'm working hard, I'm enjoying my time at work, and the paycheck is the bonus. Now, I get it for a lot of people, that's not actually the case. For a lot of people, that's not the way it is. They really hate their jobs, and they only work their job for a paycheck. And here's what I would have to say to you, is try your hardest to create a positive environment no matter what you do. Find something to do, okay? Go find a coworker and don't annoy them and just go talk to them constantly the whole time. But I'm saying you should go to that person and start joking around. The more jokes you can make at your job, the easier it's actually going to be to start loving your job. I started to notice there was a job I really didn't like. The first job I had was at Safeway. And I didn't really like it. Some people really love store jobs. I didn't necessarily. But when I started going up, customers, they would come in and I was stocking a shelf. They would come right next to me, grab something. And I'll try to find one thing about that customer to compliment. Wow, they've got really colorful shoes. Hey, I like your shoes. And that would all of a sudden create a more positive environment because that person was kind of, blown away by, oh, wow, I didn't expect this person to say that. They're going to come back with, oh, cool. Yeah, no, I got these ones for Christmas. I really like these shoes, a really good friend of mine got me these. And so you're sitting there in a conversation, and just because I said something about their colorful shoes or something, it led into a conversation of, oh, cool, I didn't know that's where you lived. That's really neat. I'm glad you're visiting over here in the county, right? And so, yeah, oh, for sure. I said there's a lot of value in working a job you don't like. Is you learn something from it mostly. You learn a lot from jobs you don't like. Even jobs you like, you learn a lot from. But here's one thing I would say is you learn the most in the first 15 minutes. If you're learning something, you'll learn the most you'll possibly ever learn in the first 15 minutes. It's really incredible. But honestly, it is because I learned a lot of what I know right now from that business. Because if I had decided, I hate this job, I'm going to act like I hate this job, people weren't going to see me the same, right? And so what I would do is, even though I hated the job, I was always trying to be as positive as I can around the customers. Because the customers really care, ultimately. The customers care a lot about the way you look. We had another coworker just kind of to himself. He'd always have earbuds in, never really smiled. He just always walked around and did his own thing. He was working hard, but he never talked to a customer. And if a customer talked to him and said a joke, he was just kind of like, yeah, right. Very, very serious. And so for me, I was always walking around smiling, asking people, hey, how are you today? Anything I can help you find? Not to the point where it was annoying, but to the point where it was really, really helpful for the customers. And I would have customers, going and saying, hey, that person right there, they do a really good job. They stay positive. I really enjoy that person. I would have people go and tell the managers that they really enjoy being around me because I just kind of brightened up the day. And that was only because I continued to have that positive attitude. Not because of the money I was making. I wasn't making a lot of money from there. I was making minimum wage. And I was still working as hard as I can. And I didn't love the job, but I loved being there for the people. People that came in, I saw the value in the customers. If we didn't have these customers, I wouldn't have a paycheck right now. So the customers are the ones that are providing your paycheck. Not all the people, not the managers. They're not providing your paycheck. Ultimately, they're giving it to you, but the customers are providing your paycheck. And so that's the thing of staying positive. Even when I did jobs, even when I had to do jobs I really hated, I still stuck to those jobs and did the best I can. You know, I started to. I can't say I didn't love the work in itself. I didn't love the job, but I started to really, really love having time to chat with the customers and also coworkers. I started to learn more about the job. I started to kind of enjoy being there. Not for the work. I would work as I could, work because I know I had to, but I would work and try to enjoy time with customers. And that was really what it was about. One person they would come in and say, "Hey man, I love your glasses." And then you'd start to recognize things about people, right? So some person would always come in and you'd say, "Man, that guy, he always comes in for chocolate milk." Okay, this is kind of a funny story, but it's going somewhere. Okay. One guy, he would always come in for chocolate milk, and I would see him coming down the aisle, and I'd say, look around, okay, there's no chocolate milk over there. We must be out of stock right there. I'm going to go in the back and see if I can find some because I know he's going to be coming for chocolate milk. I'd go and find some, bring it, and say, oh, perfect. That's what I was looking for. Thanks. You'd start to, realize people in this whole thing. Instead of thinking about yourself, thinking about, oh, I hate this job, go and find something to say to a customer. Just create a positive environment is the best thing I can say for you. And the other night at my new job, so I quit it. Well, I didn't quit. I actually put in my 2 weeks at Safeway, probably last year. And then I started working at a restaurant. Now, when I started working at the restaurant, I learned the most I could have ever learned from this restaurant. Because the boss who works there works just as hard or harder than every other boss I've seen. You have people that really, really care about their business, but his goal was to work hard, get everything done, and also be the influence to his employees, right? He wanted to set an example for us. This is what you should be doing. This is where you should be. Hang on, let me say this. Yeah, for sure. I think that's true. I've seen that quote before as well, and that is true. Don't think less of yourself. Don't think less of yourself. Think of yourself less. Yeah. No, it's true. Because when I started actually thinking of the people around me, when I started thinking of the coworkers, the customers, I actually started to create a positive environment that I loved, right? And it got to the point where I really, really love my job. Instead of being here and being, I hate my job, I had to do this. There was things in my job. For instance, one of the things I hated most was, going in. There was a place in the back. They would put all the broken eggs on one shelf in their own separate cartons or whatever. If they would just put broken eggs in the cartons and everything back there. Anyways, so what we would do is we'd go through all the cartons of broken eggs and take out the good ones, put the good ones in brand new cartons, and then take the bad ones and go throw them away, right? So the good ones we'd repackage, resell them as long as they were within the expiration date. That was good expiration date and everything. And so we would take those ones. This job I hated because we had to do it in the cold. It was in the cooler, and it took a long time to do. You had to write your new expiration date, look at the expiration dates of everything, and kind of match everything up. And a lot of times people would go in there, stack them high, and never do it. No one would ever go back there and do any of the eggs. No one would go and repackage them. So oftentimes, one of the managers, who obviously didn't want to do it, would come to me, the courtesy clerk, and say, hey, we need these eggs repackaged. Can you go repackage these eggs? I said, yeah, I can do it. I'd go back there and repackage the eggs. Now, I hated this job, right? I hated this because it was so cold. It was so annoying. There were so many eggs to repackage. But here's what I changed. I started to look at that job and say, all right, what can I do? I can't be around customers or coworkers because it's just me in that room. I mean, I'm completely separated from all the customers and coworkers. So what can I do? I started to think about, all right, I'm gonna put music in. I'm gonna put an earbud in. I'm gonna listen to music while I do this. Kind of help me a little bit. Try to enjoy the job, right? And so while I was listening to music, that was one way I could really enjoy the job was by listening to music, and that's what I decided to do was to listen to music, and it really, really helped with that because even though I couldn't go and compliment customers, go talk to customers or coworkers, I was able to complete this job and not hate it. And here's what I did. Even though I really hated this job, I kind of forced myself to it every other day, right? And the reason is because I saw how everybody else didn't care about it, how everyone else would go in there and just throw the eggs on there, and you'd have stacks to do all at one time. Versus if you do it every other day, you might have 5 cartons to deal with instead of dozens of cartons, right? And so that was my goal: is go from having just a stack, a pile of eggs to deal with, do it every other day, keep it maintained. And when I left Safeway, guess what happened? The same things started to happen. They all started to stack up again. This kept happening, and now when I go there to Safeway, everyone's like, "Hey, how are you today?" Go and talk to me. "Hey, I really appreciate you. You're really helpful." And they always want to talk to me because they know that I was one of the hardest workers there. That's what the people in the front, they would always say, the cashiers. I would walk up front and say, "Hey, what can I do for you guys? Is there anything I can help with?" They would always say, "You're my favorite because you're actually one of the hardest workers." And there was one other person who was a really hard worker, but they just didn't care about being there. Oftentimes they would just stay quiet. They wouldn't say anything. They wouldn't go and talk to the customers. They wouldn't go and talk to coworkers. If I walked in and said, "Hey, how are you?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like one of those guys. He just always got something on his mind, right? And so for me, it was just like, stop caring. Do the job like I'm supposed to. Do the job well, but start changing the atmosphere into a positive atmosphere. And it was kind of hard to do sometimes. Sometimes I just didn't want to be at work. Sometimes I tried to make an excuse, tried my hardest to make an excuse. I'm not feeling good, or I didn't finish school. There was one time I didn't go to work because I called in and said I had school to do, but I never called in sick. Because for me, it's like, if you want to call in sick, if it was me, I would never call in sick. I would walk up to the boss himself, and I'd say, "Hey, I'm feeling sick." Let them know this is where I'm at. I made it here to let you know, and I want to make sure, I did that one time. I went to my job, and I went directly to the boss and said, "Hey, I'm feeling sick. What are you thinking? I can just work today. I feel okay. But again, I don't want to be getting all the customers sick." And they said, "If you think you can make it today, that would be great." Right? And I still did. I worked the whole day, got the whole shift over with. But ultimately, you have to consider, if I decided to call my boss and say, "Hey, I can't come into work today. I'm feeling sick." It's going to create a lot more inconvenience for him, as well as that's one of the things. Okay, I never memorized my boss's number. I don't have my boss's number saved in my phone, and the only reason being is I know I can find his number, but I do not have his number saved in my phone. I know if I have to call in sick, I'm gonna make it really inconvenient for myself to have to call in, and for me, it's better for me to be showing up. He knows, okay, I'm sick, I'm coughing, I'm sneezing. Okay, yeah, you're sick. You can go home. You're good. Versus, I think he might just be creating an excuse to get out of coming to work. A lot of people do that. From the job I first worked at Safeway, so many people would call in sick. So many people would come in and say, "Yeah, I can't come in. I'm feeling sick." And I knew they weren't sick, but they just told themselves, if I can get off work today because I'm sick, really, then they would. And so I was one of the most faithful employees there to not call in sick. And if I was sick, I would go to the boss himself and say, "Hey, I'm feeling sick. This is where I'm at." Right. And so, that's one of the most important things is even now when I go into work, I went into work, it was in the summertime. I went into work and I was so sunburnt. I mean, like, I'm not kidding you. I looked like a lobster. Like, I looked terrible. It was my legs that were really sunburnt. My arms were sunburnt. My face was sunburnt to the point where it was already like blistering up and everything. Same thing with my legs. My arms weren't too bad. But I walked into work and I was so focusing on getting the day done. I know how inconvenient it is for a boss to go in and say, hey, I'm really sunburnt. I'm really hurting. I can't work today. Bye. Versus saying, hey, I'm really sunburnt. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try. I'm going to put in my effort. That's when they know you really care about the job. When you're going to put in your effort. When you're hurting the most is when you're going to put in the most effort, right? And so I tried to take like a 2-minute break every 30 minutes, just kind of like, just sit down and stretch a little bit because it hurt so bad. But it was one of the things, I know I could have went home, but it proved to my boss that I cared so much about the job that I would be okay with being in pain to be there. And it was that whole week, they were like, we never expected you to come back. Friday is when I got burnt, and I walked in that day, did my job, did everything great, completed the day. I was in a lot of pain, especially because I was in a restaurant, and it was very hot in the restaurant. It's like 90, 95 degrees in the summertime. 95 degrees when you're completely sunburnt legs. And then across from me is a burner that is on full heat coming right across. And it stung. I mean, it's pain that you can never imagine. It was painful. And I still worked the whole rest of my shift. I got off. And the next day, I came in early. As soon as he opened and said, hey, here's where I'm at. Yesterday was really painful. I'm still feeling a lot of pain today. I'm going to try to make it 2 hours. Let's shoot for 2 hours. We'll see how far I can get. If I can make it farther than 2 hours, then I'm okay. I made it the whole shift. I got off, got everything done, came home. Everything was fine. Now, it was bad enough where we called the hospital and they told us, don't go to work, stay at home, put some rags on it, put some ice on it, keep it cooled, don't go to work. And I still went to work and I still proved that I was faithful to the job. And when I showed up that day, Saturday to go back to work, my other boss came in and she said, I did not think you were going to be here today. She was like just shocked that I was still there because she knew how painful it was for me the day before and she did not believe I would be there. But that proves how faithful you are to your job. That proves it. Proves how faithful you are. And yeah, I could have gone home and said, hey, I'm just not feeling good. I'm going to take the whole week to recover, but I didn't. So yeah, that's kind of one of the main things. Anyways, that being said, we are almost at 40 minutes. I guess I'll go to 40 minutes and then I'm going to end the stream. But yeah, just super, super important. I know I kind of hopped from going to judgment to work ethic because I really have a lot to say about work ethic. Work ethic is just really, really important. And the more positive you stay doing your job, the more positive you act, the easier it is for other people to kind of fall in the same place. Part of the reason why I really, really love my job now is because everyone in my job is always positive. Everyone in my job is always as positive as they can be. They always want to create jokes and just make it fun. And so that's part of the reason why I really love it. Anyways, that being said, I'm just going to wait here for one more minute. We're going to wait to 40 minutes because I like to end my streams at exactly 40 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever seems best. But yeah, so, and right now it's kind of perfect because we're at 0 viewers, so it's fine. Yeah. No, judgment is what I called this stream, but I feel like I talked mostly about work ethic. But both are very important, work ethic and judgment. You really want to feel like if you're judging other people, they should be able to judge you the exact same way, right? If I go and judge somebody else that I don't like, that person that you don't like should be able to judge you the exact same way. Hello, welcome to the stream. All right, so we've got 16 votes here. Okay, I was not even looking at this. We got 16 votes. 50 of you guys, so it's 50-50 actually. 50% said that you would rather have to judge others, and 50% said you guys would rather have others always judge you. That is great. 50-50 votes here. That's awesome. And thank you guys all for coming on the stream. I'm going to end the stream here at 40 minutes, but I really appreciate you guys for coming on, and I'm really glad that I was able to actually kind of teach something in these streams. I like to just hop on and teach something for you guys, so I'm really glad you guys came onto the stream, and I will see you guys all in the next stream tomorrow. Bye-bye.